Hey everyone, it is Kai, and we're at that time again when a new set is coming out very, very soon, which is like tomorrow, I think, like Friday. And there's some preliminary decks that we can have here that I built that you can just kind of use just to kind of jump into the set. As always, I always say these are decks that are not refined yet. They're just ideas that you can kind of just jump on, start with, and then kind of refine it that way. I'll kind of go through it. There's not that many decks this time. This time there's only 6, because I didn't include the quintuplet ones, because whatever, right? It's quintuplets. Only focusing on the main ones, but some of these are pretty good and some of these are not that good. So first off we have is Saga, right? Saga got some new cards that really help its, weaknesses, like fix up its weaknesses. The main one being Vilord. So Vilord has quite a few effects, but I think the coolest one here is that it cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, which is great because, one of the most annoying things about playing this deck is you get a bunch of trick moons and they just all get retired by smart players, right? Playing good decks. But since it can't be retired, you at least have a good booster sitting there just winning every single turn. It also has another great effect where that when it boosts something, it gives the entire front row power. So it'll give front row a 5k for each of your armed cards, right? So it should give 10k when you have like double arms. And that just means that your front row gets even bigger, which is really, really nice. And it also has another effect that allows you to put a armor card from the drop, and then put one of the arms card into the soul as well from the drop. So it kind of fixes, like, you get to double arm very quickly, and then also get to, get some extra soul to let you use Saga's effect. So basically everything in one is pretty much this card. The other new card we got is the this new dragon as well. It lets you again search your top 7 for either a unit with dress boost ability, which is either the Vilord or the Trick Moon. And this, like, the Trick Moon is the main one. It lets you just get that, and then it also searches for an arms unit as arms card as well. So you get to search like one of each, right? And then you put one into your hands, and then you put the rest into the drop zone. So ideally, you put the arm into your hands, you put the Trick Moon in the drop zone, right? Or you can, that's probably the best. That's probably the best. And then, get back the Trick Moon with the Saga ability. So overall, very, very cool. Everything is just working very well together. So the new arms you have is like the mace and the axe. The mace just lets you retire one of your opponent's cards in the back row. And then it swaps at the end phase to what we have here is the spear. And the spear, when equipped, right, lets you draw a card. So, this kind of nice little thing that's going on. And then the axe as well here. This lets you is that actually an axe or is it a halberd? I don't know. Is it like an axe looking thing? This has guard restrict. This is battle door guard restrict, and at the end of turn it'll go into the shield, and the shield's always good. Right? Shield's, like, again, still the best equipped in my opinion. And then lastly, we are running just the Shabda here as well, because we are in a Gandiva meta where everything retires everything. So having just if your back rows can't be targeted, all right, your front rows are probably getting targeted. So at least this lets you get itself out from the drop zone in those dire situations where, like, you just have nothing else to put down, right? Just equip something, and then boom, like, your Trick Moon comes out, and then bam, this guy comes out too. So it makes just more stuff. So with that, I think that's pretty much the deck, right? We have these new kind of ride line returners that have some nice 20k shields, like 15k shields, and then, an additional regard effect that's different for every single nation. I'm kind of like testing them out, so if you don't like them, you can always take them out. But for some of these decks, I am running 2 of them just because I like 20k shields. 20k shields are the best. And then, you're at least using the free, and they're at least using a resource that, you don't use anyway, right? So put 2 of them in, and then the trigger lineup is just a bunch of U's. So just crits, fronts, and heals. Yeah, very, very simple. The next deck we have is the Magnolia deck. So this is kind of the new ride line. This one's kind of interesting in that it stops, well, kind of minuses 5k shield from your opponent's trigger units, and then kind of negates their power gains when they get damage checked. So pretty cool. You just have to bind like a specific, bind the trigger itself, and then your opponent's triggers don't work. So that's the idea. The one thing is, though, with the mask version of the Magnolia guy, is that you need to remove the other copy of the other named copy of itself to bind it. So that's the main effect that triggers that skill. So that means you have to run 4 of the OG Magnolia, and then it has a restand effect. But yeah, ideally you have to run 4 of the OG. The four of the OG is not bad because it itself on ride lets you search for another Amano Guzio card or a mask from the top 5 cards of the deck. So you place it, and then boom, top 5 check, right? And then it can also accelerate your bind as well. It has an act effect that lets you Soul Blast and, you know, bind a trigger from drop, and then it negates the power gains from that. So you'll have situations where you want to accelerate your binds, right? So first off, let's talk about like the binding order. Is that you want to bind a crit, and you want to bind either draws or fronts, and then you want to bind... No, you want to bind heals. So crits, heals, and then draws or fronts, because that's an order of like how often they come out. But I can see a situation why you'd want to like bind a draw over a heal, because if you have more damage than they have, you know, the heal won't work. But if they hit a draw, they get a draw. So yeah, that's pretty annoying, right? So you want to kind of bind that in that order, I guess. And then, or maybe you want to like, the ride line can Soul Blast and search out, is it Soul? Yeah, Soul Blast and search out a trigger. So you might want to search out the front, because you only run 1. I only put in 1 front, because I do value draws in this deck, because this deck doesn't really have that much advantage. That's why I'm also running 4 draws in the blue OT here. But you can also do a thing to accelerate the bind, is you can do the mask shuffle, is what I like to call it. So first, if you think about it, is you ride the original Amano Guzio, you bind a card, then you ideally go into mask and trigger Persona Ride, and then get rid of another one, right, with the mask effect. But then next turn, you can ride the OG again, ride the OG Amano Guzio as long as you have it in hand. And then you can then do another mask shuffle Persona Ride into the mask version. And then if you've used all the effects, all the trigger bind effects, you would have bound 4 already. That's a really quick way to kind of build soul and get that accelerated bind going. And it's not like bad to go back to the original one, because you have the first effect that will top 5 check and, you know, have a chance of getting another card too, right? But the Persona Ride is actually very, very important in getting the mask, so that's why I'm still running 2 of the mask searches. This also lets you get some Dragon Tree markers, which is a bit whatever, but at least the main thing is it gets a mask going in rotation and lets you just keep on, like, you know, masking up, right? Masking up. The other cards that we run in this deck, we have the Dark States Ride Line Returner. This one is actually really good, because not only does it get 20k shield, but the Regard effect is it counter charges. So adding a counter charger in just pretty much every Dark States deck is pretty good. And then we just run some of the Amino Guzio like support. So this one is just the Fat Beater that also gets the Soul Blast 2 and draw a card on place. And then also this card that Soul Charges 1 and then counts as 2 when you suck it into Soul. When you have Amano Guzio. So this, like, Amano Guzio wants to suck in 2 cards in Soul. Luckily enough, this counts as 2. Great times, right? Other cards that we are running, the flex slots. We have 2 Clean Sweeper. Clean Sweeper is really good. Like, think about it, right? You're bashing your opponent. You're minusing their shield. Then you're also minusing their field, right? Isn't that great, right? They just have nothing, right? Minus their field with Clean Sweep. If you really need to build Soul as well, you can also put itself into Soul. But the good thing that you minus their field, it gets like 15k power, for example. And then it's then you know, they have like minus power, minus shield power, so it's like very hard to guard when you have like more power like that. So that's pretty nice. We're also running 2 Gungan Rams, just because, you know, you can Soul Blast 3 and draw a card. That's like very, you won't really touch a soul apart from the support, right? From Misery Wing Dragon. That's the only really Soul Blast card. I guess the March Searcher, you also Soul Blast 1, but once you get that mask going, you don't really need to use the effect at all. Apart from that, you aren't using Soul, right? So you will slowly build up a bunch of Soul, and then you can just kind of cash that Soul in with some Gungan Ram, and that's that. The other things you can run is like the Cycler, right? The Cycler will let you kind of draw cards in the beginning, but then later on, when you Persona Ride, you can Counterblast 1 and call a card out from the Soul. So ideally, you call the Ruin Collector is what it's called, and then, you know, continue restanding and winning like that. Or otherwise, other important cards like more Misery Wings that will let you, you know, get big power, and you know, you can Soul Blast 2 and draw more cards, right, with the Cycler. So I think either of them are valid, right? With this build, I went with, you know, I went with the Gungan Ram and the Clean Sweep, but you can also run Cycler, and I think it'll accomplish the same thing too. The next deck that's also really good is Bastion Accord, right? This deck is very, very simple, very straightforward, but I think it's already very effective. If you look at some of the recent results, simply because of the owl that has come out, this PR, Bastion has been doing pretty well at locals. So with some extra support, having like a good grade 3, for example, might be able to push this deck up to like a higher tier. And, you know, with Bastion Accord, this is pretty much what it has, right? So this card just kind of does everything. It has a guaranteed restand, and then on the restand, the restanding card, it gets the effect where like you can on attack CB1 and discard a Bastion, and then you perform drive checks. And ideally, it's just going to be a grade 3, so you get a twin drive from that. So very, very nice, very, very good. And then your front row, like all your grade 3s can't be all get 5k and can't be targeted. Can't be targeted by your opponent's effects. Yeah. So well, no, yes, that's pretty much it. So again, against Scandiva, very, very cool. And that basically solved every single Bastion issue. Your Bastion became good. Let's put in some good support now. So you have this new kind of dragon that gets like, it's basically 23k beater and a 10k shield. Also counts as 2 grade 3s in your hand when you have to reveal, right? So just solves Bastion ride line issues. You run the new kind of OT remover, Sagas, yeah? Because it's just a great grade 3. Which is it. It's a great grade 3, right? And then you still run Alden as well because it's a great grade 3. Right, it's also a great beater. Also draws you 2 cards on place. So very, very nice. So basically every single beater and like defender kind of card is already covered in this. And then we also have the Owl. The Owl also does everything. It also counts as a grade 3, right? It's 10k pretty much. And then it can also counter charge once per turn, and also gets like 5k on place. Like this does everything. Also puts a card from your drop zone into your soul, right? Put a grade 3 from your drop into soul, or grade 3 or high into soul. It solves every single issue. Put your Bastions into soul so your Bastion Prime later can be used. Yeah, so insanely good card. You basically have like 4 flex slots in this deck. I decided to go with Dark Strain Dragon just because there's like nothing really else, right? You think, how do I just make my lines bigger? Let's give it a boost. What is a boost? It doesn't require counterblast or anything like that, or anything funny or weird. Dark Strain Dragon, it stays on the field. It's Soul Blast 2. You have a lot of soul that you're not using anyway, so I think Dark Strain is fine. You also run 1 Regalia of this deck, or Regulus piece, I mean. This is just the 4-bit all, right? It's pretty much built for this deck. You run grade 3s and 4s, so yeah. It's not bad. You run Bastion Prime. It's not bad to stay on Bastion Accord, right? If you need extra cards and you have the Bastion, then Bastion Accord is fine. But then Bastion Prime, triple drives, also like restands your whole field because everything's a grade 3 and gives them all 10k. So you get more attacks off Bastion Prime, but it's not bad to stay at Bastion Accord in my opinion. You're always confirmed to get 4 attacks, or Bastion Prime you might just trigger too good and not get anything. Yeah. So overall, I think Bastion is definitely one of the scariest decks in the format right now, and just with the extra cord, definitely pushes up near the top. Moving on to the next, we have Magnolia Reverse. I know there's a lot of flack going on with Magnolia Reverse. It's kind of an interesting deck, right? It reminds me a lot of Elder, but I think people are forgetting that Stoichea has gotten some pretty darn good orders, for example, order, yeah. We got the Misty Arc Habitat, right? This card, it just lets you look at it's just good. Top 7, pretty much grab anything called to the Regar Circle. Damn, insane. So we have that card. We're running a Zorga ride line for Magnolia simply because we just you have Moss and that. I think that's good enough. Lets you kind of see more. It's great. Yeah, very, very cool. Then the mask itself, right? The mask itself, the main thing about masks is that this one is free. Like, all the effects are free. You don't retire any CBE or anything like that. So that's the big plus for this. What the downside for it is that you need to make Dragon Tree markers, and that's going to be the limiting factor of the entire deck. So what we need is like things that create Dragon Tree markers, and that is pretty much just the mask searcher. This will search for the mask, right? Let you kind of pop off with it, and then create a marker. And then you want to play it 3 times so you can, it works with Magnolia Mask. You have your 3 back rows all getting 10k, and they can all attack from the back. That's the first thing you want to do, right? And then next we have is just the, how do we accomplish that? Well, what's likely going to happen is that you're not going to create 3 markers the first turn you ride grade 3, right? You're going to maybe create like 1 or 2, and then that's pretty much it. So what we have is like some new cards that got released. So first we've got this thing, we've got Rep Call. What happens with this is that when this is in the drop zone, when you ride Magnolia Masks, you call it to the Reguard Circle for free, right? And it gets 5k. So that's pretty cool. If you have multiples of these, you just get free cards whenever you ride Magnolia Masks. Yeah, that's nice. And then you also have this thing called Yolanda, and what she does is that when she boosts, right, you can pick you pick 2 grade 1 or less other regards, so it'll be the rep calls, and then you you retire them, right? And then you draw a card, and this gets 10k. So like we said, you're not going to get 3 Dragon Tree markers the first turn you ride your Magnolia Mask. So what you can do, you ride Mouse, you get 2 rep calls, or hopefully 2 rep calls, and then you can get a Yolanda, right? And then you can use this to boost and hit big while retiring the 2 rep calls, so that the next time you ride a Magnolia Mask, you can get them back, get power, and then continue doing that. And the thing is, this combo is all free, so it's great, right? It's all free. And then at some point in time, you know, you can use Magnolia effects, other effect, which is just to like start retiring things. So you can get one of those off because you run 1 Magnolia. Yeah, that's basically the main idea with this. So you do this until the later game when you can get more and more Dragon Tree markers, and then you don't have to rely on this at all anymore after that. There's other things you can do, but you can still do that. You actually just can still do it. You just keep on doing that. I run one of this weird dead dog thing. So this will allow you to kind of salvage a grade 3 and put it back into your hand. So on those rare situations where you don't have a Magnolia Mask to follow up, you just pull this out with like the Forced Grow Dragon, and then you can pop it and then gain like your Magnolia Mask back to continue Persona riding and getting more of your rep calls. And then we have the Forced Grow Dragon here, which is like, you know, late game, it'll basically just like call 3 cards, call 4 cards. Very, very simple. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. Very, very easy. You just keep on riding Mask, keep on calling your rep calls, and then keep on retiring the Yolandas. And then when you want to do the 6 attacks, just get a bunch of cards and then just bash with them, and then you're good to go. Misty Arc out your specific cards you need, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Also running 2 of the returners, just 20k shield. The first effect for this is like not that insane. It does help you out with soul, but this deck doesn't require that much soul, right? Unless you just need soul just to counter soul blast out for your Dragon Tree makers, right? So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Moving on to Brand Gate. I feel like Brand Gate's a bit hard. With this one though, Masked Orphist Mask. This is kind of hard deck to build because there is actually like no space in this deck. There's just a bunch of cards you want to play. What we're doing is we're gonna do a lot of mask shuffling as well with this deck. It won't be bad to like, you know, ride into masks, right? Then you use the masked effect to like, you know, call 2 cards over 2 cards on the field so they get the multi-attack going. And then, because to do this effect, you have to send orders from your order zone to the drop zone. Next turn, you can ride your Ragus to get a card from the to get like an order from the drop zone back in, and then you can just re-ride into your Orphist Mask with the mask shuffling thing, and then you know you can just remove the Orphist Ragus to get another order 1 back. So you can just kind of keep on doing that, and then works out pretty well, I think. And ideally you want to put back the moon, right? Because you know when it gets put in the order zone, you draw a card, and you know that's kind of how you kind of draw more cards from that. In terms of what you're playing over, you basically only have enough like slots to run like these 2 cards. So you have this one I think is from the TD, right? The new TD coming out. This is just when you get played over, you get to draw a card. The first effect is actually pretty good because if you have an Orphist Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 and then just put an order card that does not have the same name as a world card, right? Well, you basically put a world card from your drop zone that does not have the same name already in the order zone. So just the one that's not in the order zone yet. So you pop like 2 of the same thing and you put them back in. Like that's kind of it. And then the other card is from the new set. Is just when you play it, when it's put over this one, then you can call a Shadow Army token and create a Shadow Army token. That's kind of it. That's kind of it. The last slot you dedicate is just for the Mask Searcher. And yeah, that's already the deck because your deck is already so bloated with a bunch of these worlds. So yeah, you don't have space for a lot of other things. I want to try running Kojimid just because I like the card. You know, nice boost. Also has shield. Lets you rush early game and convert it later on for more shield. But you really just don't have the space. You don't have the space. And then lastly, we have is the Gravidia. I really don't know what to say about this deck. This deck, if you thought Orphist had no space, this deck has even less space. And it's just so convoluted and mid that it's just really, really mid. Can't really say much about this deck. So we're still running the old kind of ride line where you run the World Searcher to get the worlds. And then you ride the Combine Rusher, and then you kind of cash in the Combine Rusher later on. we're running 3 Gravidia because Gravidia is still good in that when you ride it, you get to search 2 meteors, and the 2 meteors let you draw 2 cards. I mean, it's very hard to beat that. If your opponent's at like very low damage, you can re-ride her again and then just do it and kind of draw more until you're ready to push into Gravidia Mask. This, for me, this deck is not about, you know, first turn on grade 3, you go straight to Gravidia Masks. I don't think it is, because Gravidia Mask is just terrible. I think it's like not very good when your opponent's at low damage. It doesn't have any crit pressure. It does let you double the trigger very easily. Instead of 4 meteors, you only need to throw away... instead of throwing away like 5 meteors to get the double trigger effect, you only need to throw away 4 meteors, right? So that's a nice plus. But also, it doesn't have any on-ride plussing, so you just kind of... You just feel sad. The Gravidia remover effect doesn't plus you anything as well. It just adds a bunch of meteors to hand that kind of just sit there. That it just feels awful. And then it's just the multi-attack for this card requires you to call cards from your hand onto the field. So it doesn't. You're not plussing. It doesn't plus you. You're minusing. Your minusing to do multi-attacks, right? It also requires a counterblast. So, like, you look at this, right? Your Gravidia requires a counterblast. Your Combine Rusher requires a counterblast. Your OG Gravidia, which is arguably better, right, requires a counterblast to use. Your Moon thing requires a counterblast to get a Shadow Army token. Everything requires a counterblast, so it just feels kind of bad. You can't overspend, like, you can't run like 4 combiners. Yeah, free cards, you know, spend all that CB, right? You just feel bad. Just search a mask as well. You need a counterblast. So everything's very, very clunky. Your deck is full of meteors. There's not that many reguards you can run, which is very sad. So I guess you're stuck just playing with, you know, Combine Rush if you really, really need the card. You have to run Baku Burrito because the Burrito is great. And then here, this is actually a Bobble meme, but we're running the Feet version because this is probably the best looking card in the entire deck, right? So, yeah, big props there. Ideally, what you want to do with this deck, let's kind of explain it, is you sit on Gravidia, you poke with crit pressure. When they finally go up to like 4 or 5 damage, then you go into the Gravidia Mask and you can start doing the multi attacks to put on the pressure there, right? And then the Bobble meme will help you kind of save you counterblast, etc, etc. One thing you have to notice, one thing you guys have to like understand as well, a big small little combo, not really a big, just a combo, right, is that when you use Gravidia's effect to pop a big meteor, right, if you call a Baku Burrito, right, you can use Baku Burrito's effect to Soul Blast and put that big meteor back, and then the big meteor won't get bound. So that's kind of one way to kind of keep on reusing your big meteor at the later part of the game to keep on using its effect. You just need a Baku Burrito in hand. So that's kind of a nice little touch. But apart from that, yeah, this deck is pretty average and mid. So that's pretty much all the decks. We only have 6. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Again, I have to stress that this is not like the end deck, right? You don't sit on this deck. You can use it to test out and then, you know, refine it, build it better, and get yourself ready for tournaments, like the bigger tournaments, or you just don't have to use it, right? You don't have to use it. Leave me in the comments what you think. The deck codes are in the description below, and I'll see you all in the next video, right? Bye!